as well, this talk, although among many friends, is an event that is in the frame of WALC and funded by the European Union. And then we go to our conversation of the night. I want to introduce you to Clara, who will introduce you to Alba and Anna. But before we start, I would like to share an image with you, an image that you see behind me, and you see a footprint and somebody who is an archaeologist who is looking at it. And I wanted specifically to start with this image because it's the considered the first work of art ever made by humans. It's considered to be 220,000 years old, and it was made with footprints and with handprints at the same time. I'm showing it not only because it's coming from a time where all people were walkers, because then in this, till 10,000 years ago, people were not sedentary, but were moving around all the time. But also they had a completely other view and approach to art. They were making art together. An individual artist or author was not known till quite recently. And the whole approach that people had, the way of being people had, was much more connected, connected in creation, in imagination, in telling stories. And that is where the WALC project, the Walking Arts and Local Communities, is meeting past and future, because it's exactly these stories, the stories of people, the people together, the power of and the joining of people in reimagining, rethinking, and sharing that makes this project, gives it its strength. And the walking art in itself is, by definition, an activist art, but not, you never do it alone, just like the art made on this stone. Walking art is made together. That is the spirit that we want to reflect and as well to offer in this Walking Arts and Local Community project, which is happening in a collaboration and a collectivism between 5 partners throughout Europe, from Belgium, from Portugal, from Spain, from Greece, and from France. And not only these partners, but also opening to everybody who wants to join us in this community we are starting around walking and art. The project that we will talk about today, or the walk we will talk about today, could not be more in the spirit of walking arts and local communities. It is a delight to introduce you to Clara, who is the director of Côclea, which is an art organization and an art venue in the rural environment, in the natural environment of Camallera in Catalonia, where art is blooming as in a garden and is in the middle, not only of nature, but at the middle of the local people who are always welcome and involved. The idea of hospitality is a very important, more than a concept, it's a way of being, a way of life of Clara. And that she's translating into her walking activities, which are, the main one is the 300 or 350-kilometer walk she is doing every summer in the Pyrenees or in and around Catalonia. Not alone, as you understood, but in a group, and inviting local people to join, inviting artists to make it a celebration, to make it a feast. Next to other walking activities, like as many of you know and were, the encounters in Catalonia, the relational geographies and walking arts, which is also not only about sharing knowledge, but as well as sharing experiences and being together for 1 week and walking together for 1 week. Next to the Walter Benjamin Walk, which she organizes, which connects France with Catalonia, and which is reviving the last walk of Walter Benjamin, seeing walking not only as a way of sharing, but also as a way of thinking and having and creating new ideas and about our world, as Walter Benjamin did. That's my short introduction into Clara. I leave it now up to her, and I'm looking forward for the conversation after Clara, Alba, and Anna have told more about their adventures in Catalonia. Up to you now.
Thanks, Geert. It makes strange to meet this group, this community. So many of them that we have lived together, we have slept together, we have been eating. And well, we are trying a new format, the screens, which usually are the first format. Now, for us, is the third or the fourth. For those who don't know Grand Tour, I don't know if there is anyone here that don't know Grand Tour, but just for those, if any doesn't know what is Grand Tour, it's an experiment that we have been doing for 10 years now. It is a walk of about, I used to say 250 kilometers, but now I have to say 300 because this year we walked even more than 300 kilometers that we do in 3 weeks. And we do with artists of all the different branches, musicians, poets, visual artists, theater players, and also with the local communities we find in the way. Groups of women, activists, it depends on the year, but it depends also on the territory, on the places where we are passing by. And Geert was right when he was saying that hospitality is essential, because one beautiful thing is that hospitality is natural. People is hospitality by nature, and still like that, and by default. So everywhere we have been going all these 10 years, we have found a lot of hospitality. And these communities are essential because this keeps the group not only closed on itself, but open to the world. And it's a thing that many touristic activities cannot do or cannot reach. In what this 2024 Grand Tour has been special has been special because we have walked more than ever. And it has been special also because breaking our tradition of walking in spiral in the territory, we have broken this tradition to go from the north to the south and to enter Barcelona. This is a thing that had frightened me for a long time, because entering a big city is a challenge. It is very hard, and it is a shock regarding the easiness and the fluency of being in the country and being in silent places with a lot of space, etc. We had entered Girona long ago, but Girona is a small town. This year we entered Barcelona, and we did it with local groups of artists that were working in the metropolitan area. So with people that was really engaged in this periphery of Barcelona, that I can tell you that is, we have seen it, completely wild, very harsh, as it is the peripheries of all the big cities in the world. So in this, it has been also very special, and you will feel it confirmed in the testimonies of the grand tourists that will speak here. In the third thing that it has been special is that it has been special in the involvement of all the travelers. The involvement of the travelers has always been more or less effective, but this year it has been a boom, and it has been, you will see a lot of different activities that have gone along all the travel and following the different arrivals and goes of the people. As you know, some people does the whole travel. This year, for example, Laia was doing all the travel, Marie was doing all the travel, but some people comes only for 7 days or for 5 days. So these people staying is passing the tale, passing the story to the group and creating the stability of a real story, which is the story of this specific travel. So in this year also we wrote a wonderful travel. We had every year we have 1 or 2 invited artists that make a specific residence in Grand Tour. And this year we decided to choose these artists among our group, the platform WALC, that we are sharing with people of all Europe, because we are in this European project. And the platform chose the projects of Ana Piatu and Laia Alba Sauleda, and they were with us as invited artists and developing a specific project that has a continuity now and one day will be published or exposed or presented. So before speaking of little bit details of what has been this Grand Tour, I would like them to expose, present their works, how they had conceived this very site specific. And it is funny to say site because it is not site, because we are not doing land art here at all. We don't do land art. We do a project that is completely dynamic. And when I say site specific, I mean travel specific. So I would like to hear about these 2 travel specific projects that counted very, very much, and that was the secret of the success of both, with the participation of the travelers. So maybe who wants to start? Maybe Laia? Alba?
Alba? I'm ready if
Okay.
you want to. Okay, so I'm going to do a bit of a report of my work in progress, and I've prepared this presentation. Can you see the images?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so before I start, I wanted to start by reading one of the dreams that were collected during this Grand Tour. And it says, a dome made of iron rods, like an iron half orange, and inside, a prisoner character that I can't identify. Then I see all of us rolling down the side of a mountain, a grassy slope, and we are very small and we roll. So this is an example from the approximately 30 dreams collected during this experience. And the nice part of this collection is that we can see that we dreamt of each other. We dreamt of the places we walked. And sometimes we also dreamt with our daily life. Also spirits, death, illness, visions of pleasure or happiness also happened. And anyway, this was the kit of my project, like seeing if there was a collective imaginary or unconscious that we were sharing on the other side of the Grand Tour. So I wanted to report the other side of the Grand Tour, like the dark side of the moon, then the dark side of the experience. And well, in the beginning, I was thinking about a way to have a visual representation of this experience. And that's why I was like influenced by the form of a map, and I also have tendency to imagine the sense of a spider web. That in the first place, I thought of a map that joined our skins in a form of a constellation map. And then the stories would work as the myths or legends that normally go together with the explanation of the constellations. But with time and talking to people, I went realizing that these parts of the project are independent, or that each one works for its own. And here, this is the place where I am right now in this work in progress. So for one side, during the experience, for one side, I started recollecting the freckles from people's skins, the ones that would be stars in the map. And it was really nice to see how the relationship with people slightly changed from this act of, I like to imagine it like an act of careness or kindness. And it's like sharing an intimacy where the other person has to accept or permit this approach. So I carried with me cling film, which I have to say is a very useful tool for all of my trips. It can be used like to join things, repair things, collect things. But anyway, this is a part. So I used this material that, as well as is used in tattooing to save the drawings. In this case, I registered the drawing that was already in the skin. So I saved these pieces of about 20 per 15 centimeters each inside a notebook, each one between pages. And then on the other side, I let people know about the existence of the dream box. It was a box that was carried out with us, and where anonymously you could write your dreams or visions experienced during the night that we shared. And I personally think, in perspective, that this part was more difficult to approach because the level of intimacy that I was proposing to share is more intense than the physical one. And so in this sense, it was usual to hear people telling me that they do not dream, or that they do not remember their dreams, even though I gave some tips like to register mentally these experiences, or people who didn't even want to participate. But anyway, in any case, talking with people and during walking, we decided to open this proposal not only to dreams had at night, but also to visions or flashbacks that are other expressions from the unconscious. And it was from these dialogues that during walking that I found it every time easier to share or collect these personal experiences. I wanted to say that initially my idea was to share our dreams together every day. But then we thought that it might be too much of an experience, so we left it in the box. What we did, you can see in the images in the end, was to share these experiences between the people that we were there at the end. So we gathered together, we opened the box, and we laughed, and as well as we felt surprised or sometimes shocked by reading collectively those short stories that were happening while we were together. And well, as I said in the beginning, it was really nice to see the correspondences between dreams with the group of people and with the daily life of the Grand Tour. So in the end, I got home with 27 pieces of transparent paper with drawn freckles, and with a dream box with also 27 dreams. But from the dreams, I also have audio recordings and WhatsApp messages from people who, I don't know, preferred like to speak more than to write. And well, this is a part that will have to be worked later. Because this part of the dream stories is still for me a bit raw, because I wouldn't like to interfere in the people's writings. And for the moment, I got to think that the form that could show both these two parts, the dreams and the stars, is an installation that invites to behold a starry night, a starry sky, like this. This would be a draft to imagine this space, this invitation to an experience. I imagine it with a soft ground for people to lay down. You also have to imagine that this white rectangle is where you can see this sky. And on each corner of the room, I imagine a voice that recites the stories of the dreams, like a kind of assemblage of irrational experiences. And also to unify, I think about music with an instrument that was carried along the Grand Tour and that many of us played during those days. And it is a music box that is played with scores that have to be cut. And then an idea that showed up during the walk was to make music from the patterns of the freckles of people. So this would be the sound part that I will start working on once I finish the visual part. And the starry sky, as soon as I got home, I started thinking or conceiving that it was every time more important that it had light for its own. I wrote that stars are traveling light. And I love to think that some stars that we see don't exist anymore, but we can see the traces of its path. And like if we can finally materialize this project, we will see the light of something that has already happened. And so I have started the research with tracing paper. I have also tried carbon paper, like to transfer to the final paper. And I'm currently trying to find different tools to do the best cutout with the best material. And at this point, I have many things to do actually. But the important parts would be like to find a space where to make this installation that will help to define the measures of this ceiling. I also have to work on the sound phase, like the music patterns, and go and ask for the music box, etc. And then solve these details from the installation, like the final material of the ceiling, the kind of light and its power, or the loudspeakers, etc. So I am at this point, at this moment. I'm very happy. The experience was lovely. I have done a bit of a report, and if later you want to talk about any aspect, I will be like really happy to do. So thank you very much. And
Thanks. It was great, Alba. Forgot to say before that, and I think it's important, Alba is just starting her PhD, which has a lot to do with oniric world and parallel processes in in creation and visionary woman. She's starting from the character, the figure of Leonora Carrington, and she will be very soon giving us a lot of surprises in that sense. And also, I should say that the music box, the music scores you have seen, we will speak more about that later, because Laia was the coordinator of this music box during the travel, and she will explain a little bit how did we cooperate in the creation of collective compositions together with musician Igor, who has helped us to put all our efforts together. But now first, let me introduce you Anna Piatou. She was the other artist chosen by our platform, by our network. She is Greek, and she studied visual arts, and she will explain to us, but she was particularly interested in the correspondences between what happened in Greek Civil War and in Spanish Civil War, and how the repression in the post-after-war was so parallel. She had explained a lot of things to us during the conference, Working Art and Relational Geographies, and somehow her intervention, in her participation in Grand Tour was like a continuity, like a second part of this very, very emotive and very intense experience. Because we don't know, or we know very little about the reality of the other, even if the news are always there invading us. But finally, when two people does a story, explains the narration, explains the situation, we are live that in a way which is very intense. So Anna, if you want to explain a little bit, also I liked very much your way of explaining how this project of you was fused with your personal situation during Grand Tour. And I think that this is charming and also very nice to hear.
Thank you, Clara. Okay, the basic idea that connected me with the invitation in the Grand Tour is the exclusion of certain people in the past and in the present, and the collective Civil War trauma, and how I could communicate it through this nomadic walking residency. I tried with some collective actions. We tried collectively to understand and embody the relationality of the past in history, in order to achieve some visibility, in order to get empowerment, healing, all this by projecting some parts of difficult and uncomfortable histories. Personally, what motivates me, as Clara said before, is the trauma and healing, but also how solidarity and care can bring together and develop among communities that can be ephemeral, but sustainable in the long term. The first thing I want to show you is the collective action we did the second day when we arrived at the Catalan-French border. This is when we reached the border, the second day. So the idea was to bring sand from the Aegean Sea. Aegean Sea, I see it as a border. It is a border. I don't see it only me. It is a graveyard of undocumented, mainly bodies that of men, women, children who are denied access to European Union. And this idea was based on a work that I did last year. You saw briefly this video with the sea going back and forth. It's actually the place where I took the sand from. It's a place near where I live, by the Aegean. And I wanted to do a symbolic collective action by bringing the two borders together. Where we were at the moment, we were at the path of a path used in the past by contrabandistas or by guerrillas from the Spanish Civil War, a path that connected all, helped people flee Franco's regime after the Civil War, and also separated them by denying them access after the end of the war. So the action was symbolic in order to make visible what is happening nowadays as well at the borders. Another action, more like a workshop, collective workshop, was when we were at the convent, at the garden, and it was about the exile, a place of exile in a small island near where I live again, and I have as well a connection with personal trauma of my family, being there exiled, my grandmother and my father as a child. So at some point at this island, there were 5,000 women during the Greek Civil War. So I printed photos of women of this island with their children, the photos as well from people waiting at the borders in Perpignan after the Spanish Civil War, and other people in labor camps during Franco's regime. And I tried to give a more participatory way in this. Eva helped me with the editing of the text that I decided to do in Spanish. So it was more friendly to the people than in English. And based in some oral histories from women and children that they were there. And everybody could take the voice of these people by reading. Okay, but you see some photos here.
When we were in the border, it was very emotional because each and one of us has a history, has a grandmother, a grandfather, an uncle, someone that has been repressed or has been suffering in the Civil War. So some things that at the beginning in the explanations of Anna were abstract or historical, in a moment became very present, not only because we all had common histories in our families, but also because she was speaking of the refugees in the real present of now and of the people that is in the island where she's living now. And maybe you can explain about the sand you brought, because and the hole we dig, because it was a very emotional moment.
It was at the moment we were up there, and we started digging the soil. The soil, as Marie said later, was resisting, was very hard. We took some stones and started to hit hard the soil, and in order to make a small hole and put the sand in it. Then Rosa started quoting a poem by from Corandes d'Exil, and this created immediately a very emotional atmosphere. And later, like a burial, each of us took a small part of the sand and put it one by one in the small hole. Immediately after that, you all remember that the rain bursted, a strong storm, but for us and everyone embraced it like a catharsis. So to continue with this workshop here, people, because Clara, you were very right, Greek and Spanish Civil War have a lot of common things. Because after the war, the state applied silence, complete silence. And this has the result of an unhealed trauma that today is I don't know, it's seen, it's converted into far right, into genealogies of divisions between us and the others. Here in Greece, for example, you can still see, even in the parliament, people use terms that refer to the civil war. So I think by bringing these difficult histories, this trauma that has been unhealed, it's to highlight these stories can bring us together, can make us share these traumatic stories that is common. It's very common. We all have someone we know or some people closer from our family. I encountered people when I stopped walking at some point. Then I encountered, for example, Estrella in Camping Las Catalans. She was working there, and immediately she shared her family story with me. One of the relatives was involved. Is now unknown where he's buried, and she's studying to be a teacher. And she told me that even today these stories are not spoken in the school. It's totally dependent on the teacher. So. And as well, other participants shared after this workshop stories. For example, Oriol, you, Clara, you focused on the silence among families.
Yeah.
After the war.
This is so.
I think we re-energized some spaces, for example, the border, and gave visibility to this marginalized history of the past. And with the act of burying, for example, the sand at the border, we entered into a conversation with the contemporary socio-political condition concerning the politics of the borders. We try to understand why it is necessary for history to become visible, and that through knowledge, we can understand, we can create an understanding for the other. We can create empathy, acknowledgement, and forgiveness, and eventually surpass the trauma. I can maybe share the last part of an idea I had about care practices.
Yeah, perfect.
That I didn't announce to anyone because I didn't know how it would. Of course, I didn't want to create something that could be fake. And after I got the injury in my leg, and I stopped walking, and during this, people really spontaneously all of the participants in one or the other way. They helped me. They showed really solidarity, really care, genuine care. I want to show you now here is Uge, that is here with us today. She's a doctor. She's examining my leg. Jordi, who is applying medicine acupuncture on my leg. The other Jordi, who is preparing a clea that I gathered from the mountain as anti-flammable. And last but not least, Berta, who found this stick for me and very happily gave it to me. And yes, this is what I meant in the beginning. I think solidarity is and care is the way to look today to this modern crisis in order to surpass inequalities and become a community of resistance somehow. That I think we did at some points, in many points during the Grand Tour.
Yeah, I think it was this aspect was very important in your case, because sometimes when we treat political or social topics in art, it remains very artistic somehow, very independent, very separated from reality. And the way you behaved, not only in your symbolic artistic proposal, but also after when you were weak and you couldn't walk, and the way you related to others, enhanced this aspect of compromise with reality. And I think that this was very touching and very important. Also, Jordi, who cannot be here today, Jordi Rayo, because he's in a rehearsal, told me how much you helped in the kitchen and how many good moments you had together. And so this is the idea. And now, well, you have seen the two main projects that will develop in the future and will end up in an artwork. But in Grand Tour, we did a lot of more things. And one of the particularities of this year has been this ability that we have had as a group of inventing creations and sharing them among ourselves. This happens every year, but this year has been especially intense. And I'm happy that we are so many, because here there is people that have led or coordinated some of these interventions. And one of the funniest and more creative things was the music box. Laia was in charge of this music box, and Igor was also in charge because he's a musician and he did the recordings after. So I would like them to explain a little bit in what the music box, in what it consisted, and really how people could engage in this in a collective work.
Good evening. For example, I found this, that it's very similar of the box, but we had in the Grand Tour. We had the box, we had the papers, and paper hole punch. It's called, I think, that you can do holes on the paper. Then what happens is that we investigate about the function of this box. We found some instructions like we found some instructions like how can you do the notes of music and rhymes and all you can do with music with a normal instrument and with a normal how do you say partitura
Or
score, no? O sea, the usual language of music we can do with this box, with this music box. But happens that the people that the persons that were in Grand Tour, they use this machine and this paper for do visual art. O sea, they didn't want to do real notes and real rhymes. And however that in the other possibilities they wanted to do, for example, the shape of the mountains, or for example somebody tell me I want to know how sounds the letters, no, of Grand Tour, GRA, and they do the holes on the papers and put in the machine, in the box, for wanted to listen how sounds how sounds the this composer
Well, you were telling it. So you was something like we were both talking about it. You were at the beginning. It was more like trying to have a more musical focus. But yeah, it would be scary for the people who are not musical. Don't have any musical formation, and I think there are a lot of people who don't have in the tour. So the idea was this, to make it more accessible for the other people to participate, and doing more, as you told, text, for example, because you can translate musical ideas. They're transportable very easily, and it's done very often in history, and still it's being done using frequencies of lights or vision or text or whatever. You can translate it very, very easily. So that was our idea, to make it more accessible for other people to participate, and to to give them some ideas to make a sort of creation, a visual creation or musical creation. It sounds anyway. If you put a hole in it, you have one note. And if you put 3 holes in it, you have 3 notes. So it's easy like this. And they were all very beautiful. They were, I mean, I was like Laia is also very, you have musical. What's happening now?
video.
The video.
Yes, I have some video. I don't know.
Okay.
When I will try to put.
Okay. Okay.
But you cannot hear it. And it comes very, very well to me, because I wanted to explain, I wanted to say that one particularity of this music box is that it mixes the idea of sound with the idea of image. And many of us work in the score not as much as a score for sound, but as a representation for image. So that's why in the score of Eugenia was the mountains drawn, or Monsita wrote Grand Tour, and also I wrote a poem and did the whole. So this mix is what has also suggested Alba to include the music box in her installation, and that has taken Igor to record the results and maybe to do something with that. So that is creating together, and that is what is interesting. Not so much focusing in the result, but focusing in the process and in the moment. That's why somehow now with internet and screens and things like this, it is difficult to really to translate what happened. But the emotion of the moment, we had it, and it is the process that is interesting. To ask to Marie. Marie is French, and she had the courage of doing the whole Grand Tour, knowing, because I warned her that we were going to speak Catalan for the 3 weeks. Of course, there was some English and people that speak English, and of course, among us, we are nearly bilingual, and we speak a lot of Spanish also, but we speak Catalan a lot of time. So I would like Marie could tell lots of things, different things and different experiences, but this particular one, I think, is not shared with other people. Is not a situation that others found. So I would like very much you to explain something about that.
Oui, je suis désolée, mais je ne peux pas parler anglais. J'en comprends, mais je ne peux pas parler anglais. Sur cette histoire de langue, oui, je ne parlais pas du tout le catalan. Vous parlez toujours en catalan entre vous. C'est très fort. C'est quelque chose qui est évident. Vous êtes tous, toujours en train de parler en catalan. Vous avez fait des efforts pour me parler en castillan et je vous en remercie. Et aujourd'hui, je suis prise entre plusieurs choses. Je suis très émue de vous retrouver, puisqu'on s'est quitté depuis un moment. On a tellement partagé de choses que pour moi, c'est une grande émotion. Et en même temps, je ne vous reconnais plus parce que voilà qu'on est encore dans une autre langue, avec l'anglais. Voilà. Mais tout ça, ça parle justement de Babel, enfin, ça parle de ces, ben oui, aussi peut-être de notre contemporain. Voilà. Voilà. Je veux dire.
Have you understood? Do you want some translation? It's okay for everybody? Merci Marie, c'était vraiment très émouvant. I would like to listen Eva, who has been for 2 years the main responsible for the library. And the library that became like a kind of a joke, because when we walk, we cannot read much. And because it is very heavy, has become very, very important in Grand Tour. So in part because of her, because what she did, because how she gave importance to that. So I would like very much that she explains a little bit what this experience means to her.
Well, the library is one idea of you, Clara, because the last years always you carry with in the auto books that are linked with the territory, with the lands, that the paths and the ways and the culture and the ethnography and the folklore of the areas that we work at. Last year you changed the idea and you propose to the workers to suggest a book that everyone considers is funny or is interesting or is important to share with the others. Last year was the first time the library is composed with the books that all the workers suggested. Everyone and you bought and you carry in a case, in a old suitcase that you explain us that you find walking in the forest, near Côclea, near Camallera, no? I remember, and you suppose there is a suitcase living for foreign people. There is maybe ¿cómo se dice? Well, a foreign people that is a refugee, maybe, or is well, that suitcase is full of books and other objects that you gives to make sense, like a globus, a globo terráqueo. I don't know the name in English, and un cojín, ¿cómo es un cojín? A pillow book and some things. Well, last year, all the people, I think, we together we enjoyed. We didn't have enough time to read, really, and this year was the second year, and the system was similar. People suggest a book, but we need this time we have to llevar consigo, to wear with us, to carry with us. It's curious because the books that are suggested last year and are linked with the books that this year coming in the new tour. Some reference or some suggestions this year people bring with to the library. Well, there is sometimes literature, romance, novellas, but the most of times the majority are essays or books related with the area, the territorio, the Catalonia, the region or the comarca we visit. Well, yes, I hope this idea or this part of the Grand Tour continues and go on the next year, because is not important of the Grand Tour, but gives a value, added value to thinking and to after to reflexionar, no reflexionar. Sorry, my English, but I am very tired because yesterday, well, this morning we arrived very late to home from Crete, and well, the books are very interesting after to finish the Grand Tour, because the book gives the opportunity to be still linked with the Grand Tour and gives you a souvenir and a point to continue thinking in things that people talked during the suppers and during the walking. Well, it's
yeah, maybe. No, Eva, it's important that this library is dissolving every year. So when we finish the travel, everyone takes a book and they take it. And we have an ex libris made by Jordi Lafon, our guide also.
Yeah.
And, everybody that has a book from the Library of Grand Tour, the book is marked with that ex libris. And I always had the intuition that the idea of the book as an object, apart from the book as a content as a transmitter of ideas was important, had some symbolic, very strong power. And that was not just that decoration function that has in some horrible bourgeois libraries. So this traveling with a book when you don't have the most essential things that you need, or you have just the essential, but you take the book and you carry the book, is important. And now that we have done that for 3 times, I understand that this traveling with a book is essential because it is a mark of identity. The book of each and one, and in this Eva was very good, was presented in a much better way that if people should have presented themselves saying, oh, I am that one and I work in this and that, or I am an artist of this and that. They didn't present themselves, they didn't introduce themselves, they introduced the book they have brought. And they were much more transparent than if they had said about themselves, because there is less habits and less topics and less customs regarding presenting a book than presenting oneself. So I also expect that this library grows and goes away in the world and comes back next year.
Clara, and I remember the story Marie. Marie explains us about the books in the parts of Mauritania, the north of Africa, that Marie can explain better the story, but I think it's libraries, portables, libraries. In the case of the north of Africa was in the same place, in an oasis, preserved for a family, but gives the knowledge and the riches of the humanity of this world. Marie, can explain a little bit the story, because I link.
C'est une très belle chose que j'ai vue en Mauritanie. Dans un oasis, une ville qui s'appelle Chinguetti, les caravanes ont amené des livres. On appelle ça, et ces livres sont restés dans des bibliothèques qu'on appelle les bibliothèques du désert, qui sont présentés aux visiteurs. Les gens présentent leur bibliothèque, et ces ouvrages qui sont là datent les plus anciens du XVIe siècle. Donc on a toute la culture de l'astronomie. Aussi, on a beaucoup de choses sur le Coran, on a beaucoup de choses qui sont précieuses, qui sont là et qui sont toujours restées dans ces maisons, et qui sont arrivés par des caravanes voilà, de nomades. Et j'étais très émue quand j'ai pu participer, enfin voir comment nous transportions dans cette boîte une bibliothèque apportée par chacun. Voilà.
Oui, c'était très joli. Maybe what Marie says can indirectly answer what Robert has written in the chat about the spirituality and the sanctity of the place and the space. Maybe, Robert, because what you wrote is a little bit long and complex, maybe you could explain in a question, what are you focusing, what are you thinking of the territory, the place, the sanctity of the area, and if the example of Marie with the books in Mauritania can be a parallel.
Just a thought came to me. I had a book, Merleau-Ponty's, The Phenomenology of Perception, and I live in the New Forest, and I lay it down I take it with me, I lay it down on a table in a restaurant, and the gentleman came up, I think he was French, and took a look at it and pondered over it and gave me an admiring look. And when he left the restaurant, he came up to me and shook my hand. So I think the book was communicating something more than my personage. That was just a little anecdote to corroborate that story. But what I'm trying to say is different parts of the world have their own power sources. And the area I'm talking about is where abstraction was born in art. I'm frightened that people will tread or destroy the beauty of the ambience through ignorance. And I think we need to work to preserve the sanctity of, well, I would call them holy places. It's something of the earth itself, something in the air gives rise uniquely to different ideas. That's all. I don't know if that's too complicated, but there's something, it's probably psychogeographical that there is an understanding to be gained from being in here or over there in different places. They have their own unique, just as we have our personalities, so do places have their identities.
I should say, Robert, that beauty is an attitude. It is not in the world, it is in ourselves. And of course, you can go and tourists can go in mass, in groups, and spoil a place.
Mm.
But they will only spoil that in regard to you. But if you have your temple in your inside, nothing can be spoiled, and beauty will be always there.
Oh, that's good. Thank you.
That's
comforting.
not a solution.
I hope so. My area is Kiev, around there, so I've got my fingers crossed. Thank you.
Hi. Yes, I usually bring my drawing stuff when I travel, and I wrote it to Grand Tour. There were some days where I could like find a moment to settle down, draw a little bit. I still need to finish it, but I have it here. Maybe I can show it to you. Like I made this notebook, like an accordion. So I just followed the Grand Tour for 7 days, but I tried to make a draw each day. The first day is in a camp, and I drew Anna because she explained us a talk about her research. It was really interesting because with this talk we could have like background to walk the following day and to do the performance she explained before in the mountain. This is a drawing of the performance. It's us in the mountain and like representation of the hole we made in the sand with all the with the metaphor of the refugees, like bringing bridge. Here is the third day that we walked in the mountain. This is the Pedra Forja, a mountain famous here in Catalonia. This is like a composition I made with some things that I found in the way. And this is another draw of a village we passed. La Pobla de Seúl. No, La Pobla de Lillet, sorry. This is another one. Like the representation of a river with our food, and I need to finish out. We found some snake on the way too. And the last one was at the convent, this artistic place, and there was an exhibition about the works of the residents. So I spent the morning like doing some sketches there. So yeah, it has been interesting, like having these moments at the end of the day, like with the library, drawing, playing some music. It's been lovely. Thank you for organizing and for sharing with all the walkers.
What I must say is, well, in the future, in the years to come, certainly we will have either an exhibition, a publication, and of course, some of you are professional and develop artistic works. But for me, the most important thing is what happens in the moment and what happens in the territory and what happens in common, because I think it's another different way of making art, of creating and of learning that is not new, because in the history of humankind, art was collective until the 15th century. And then it became a matter of professionals. And all the rest, we became audiences, spectators. And of course, this made a lot of wonderful things, and these professionals have put the art forward, but at the same time, where is our place? So I think these ways are ways of not only sharing art, but doing together and seeing and being seen in connection, and also with the local communities. Geert, I don't know if we are past time or if we have time.
We are, as always, past time, because time goes so quickly when interesting conversations are going on. But of course, after your beautiful words sending us into the night, there may be somebody who has a reaction or one more question before we wrap it up and walk further. If no further comments, then I would like to thank you, Clara, for this hospitality. To thank Alba for her kindness and gestures that are bringing us beyond the material of walking and in the world of dreams, and Anna for her healing and care that she gives. And to everybody that was taking part, the library people, the music that was brought into the Grand Tour. As a last thought, I have to think about was 451 Fahrenheit, where people as well carry books with them in nature, because books are forbidden in a future society, and the only thing they come up with to preserve books is to learn them by heart and to give them from one to the other by telling them as stories. This is maybe the most beautiful way of the cherishing books by making them new, making them as walkers. Then thank you so much, all of you, for these beautiful stories and for being here. As a last word, I would like to thank the European Union, the Creative Europe program, for co-funding this evening and the walk project. And I hope to see you not only online, but as well in further physical events like in Prespa next year that we will organize, or in Guimarães. And for sure, as Clara will confirm, you are all, the ones that were not there yet, all very welcome to join in the Grand Tour in August next year. That's it, and I wish you great dreams for this night.